What now lies abandoned inside the vast acreage of UW-Madison's Arboretum was once planned to be the most beautiful, modern, and desirable city in all of the Northeast. So what led to the downfall of such an ambitious project? Was it the war raging across the globe at the time? Was it the withdrawal of finances from a top donor? Or was the land simply not suitable for a project of this kind? You're about to find out. This is the true story of the lost city of Lake Forest. The year was 1911. William Howard Taft was president, and a recent housing shortage was sweeping both Madison, Wisconsin, and the United States as a whole. In an effort to combat this issue, Lake Forest Land Company proposed their plan for a new suburb, which after their name would call Lake Forest. Located on the south shore of Lake Wingra, the city would be a kind of suburban utopia, complete with streetcar service, gas and electric lines, playgrounds and schools, and a water supply rivaling that of the city of Madison. And that's not all. The center of the city would feature a circular plaza containing a civic center, shops and restaurants, and even a flower garden. These things don't sound like a lot by today's standards, but back in 1911, they were a massive deal. Although definitely overselling it, Governor Emanuel Philip called it, quote, the greatest piece of work of its kind that has ever been undertaken in Wisconsin. He wrote that in the Lake Forester, a newspaper created for the sole purpose of keeping the public up to date on the happenings in Lake Forest. All of this leads to a question. With such a grand vision for the suburb, why did it fail? Why isn't Lake Forest one of the most prominent places in Wisconsin today? Well, there were a few things happening in the world at that time. In April of 1917, after the German sinking of American merchant ships, the United States joined World War I. This both slowed sales and took workers, who were now fighting overseas instead of providing labor. Later, in 1929, the Great Depression hit, further diminishing sales. In the end, only 61 lots were ever sold. A number may even smaller, considering the more than 1,000 lots planned. To add to their financial troubles, a man entrusted to help fund the project, president of Madison Bond Company, Victor H. Arnold, was found to have committed fraud for over a decade. The company later went bankrupt in 1922. So clearly there were some struggles, between a top donor withdrawing funding and a literal world war happening. But regardless of all that, there was still one core issue with the city of Lake Forest, and that was with the land itself. You see, Lake Forest was built on swampland, whose marshy soil didn't exactly mix well with the building projects, and the developers knew this. Originally, over 7,000 feet of canals were planned to be built to help dry the marshy soil. But without the canals in the beginning, the first homes and roads built sank into the bog around them. Later, sand was brought in to reinforce the streets. However, not nearly enough, causing the streets to not sink per se, but also not stay completely level. The project was eventually abandoned, and Lake Forest Land Company filed for bankruptcy. In the end, only a handful of homes were ever built, a far cry from the grand suburbs the developers originally envisioned. The university purchased the land in the late 1930s, and began developing it into conservation areas. So what's left of Lake Forest today? Unfortunately, not much, not that there was a lot to begin with. Of the 6 completed homes, only the ruins of one still remain. All that is left are the mossy steps leading to the sky, and the foundations of a basement slowly succumbing to nature. Fractured sidewalks lining dirt roads can still be seen, and the occasional can or other scrap can be found, though most have decayed beyond recognition. The fact is that most remnants of Lake Forest are gone, and only the story lives on now. It's the story of a grand vision, tainted by factors outside the visionary's control. It's the story of nature, putting a stop to the will of man. It's the story of a great failure that left a company bankrupt and ruined many financially. And I think it's a story that needs not be forgotten. Who knows what would have happened if Lake Forest hadn't fallen through? Maybe some of you watching this would have lived there. What's most interesting to me is that most of the city hasn't been explored yet, so there's a real possibility there's even more ruins out there. If you're interested in seeing the remnants of the lost city for yourself, the UW Arboretum offers a tour annually on October 31st. And although I haven't done it myself, it definitely seems like it would be worthwhile. Anyways, that's all for me for today. I will see you guys in the next video, coming very, very soon.